Hello, you, the one who's listening. In the middle of a life that's been anything but quiet lately, if you happen to press play on this radio today, maybe, just maybe, the universe is trying to whisper something meant only for you because someone out there is regretting losing you, not just in passing thoughts, but in every sleepless night, in every silent sigh, and in a proposal that's been waiting far too long to be spoken. This isn't just their story, it's your journey, a path you were meant to walk, through love, through pain, and into rebirth, and it all begins in a moment that looked so ordinary on the outside. You were smiling, but inside, your heart was quietly carrying something no one else could see. So we begin there, right at the center of that quiet ache you once carried like a mask named strength. You walk through each day, surrounded by noise, faces, and polite check-ins. Everyone assumes you're fine. Everyone thinks you've moved on. You still show up, still smile, still reply to messages with the same familiar emojis, but no one knows that when the night comes and you're finally alone with no more distractions left to hide behind, what remains is emptiness. That cold space where your heart once beat faster for someone is now just the quiet rhythm of an unnamed sorrow. No one knows how deeply you once loved, how you gave your trust, how you dreamed of a future with them, and how you quietly buried that dream without a single complaint. Because you are an Aries, you've learned how to walk forward with a chest still aching but your back straight like a warrior. You don't cry in front of others. You don't complain. You don't let anyone see the pieces that broke inside you because you've always been the strong one, the one who holds everyone else up and never the one held. But sometimes that very strength becomes a trap. You forget that your heart deserves to be heard too. That sorrow isn't a weakness, it's a sacred part of being human, and I want you to remember this. Resilience isn't about never crying, it's about facing your pain without running from it. It's about walking into your own darkness so that one day you can step out, carrying your own light. There's a saying from Buddhist teachings I carry with me. The pain that's never seen is often the deepest one. And I believe if you're still listening now, you've carried that kind of pain, a wound no one else could see, but one that changed you forever. Maybe you once loved someone with everything you had and had to walk away without closure. Maybe you were the only one still trying while they had already let go, but you didn't fall apart. You just went silent. You kept walking, as if nothing had happened. And in that silence, you healed, bit by bit, with each breath, with quiet tears, with mornings when you opened your eyes and whispered to yourself, "I'll be okay." That is a rare kind of courage, a kind of bravery that doesn't need applause, a kind of light only the deeply wounded can carry. You don't need anyone to validate your pain. Just know this: you lived through it, and you're still standing, stronger than ever. If you're hearing this and quietly nodding, if you see yourself in these words, then I invite you to pause just for a moment, just to breathe, just to place your hand on your heart and whisper, "I've been brave." And if you've carried a silent wound, a pain no one ever saw, maybe today you're ready to share your story, not for pity, but so someone else who's hurting quietly like you knows they're not alone. Because sometimes we don't need advice. We just need someone to say, "I've been there too." And that is enough. In that stillness, when there's no more struggle, no more words, when your mind grows quiet, another voice begins to rise, not from the outside, but from across the space between you, from the one who walked away, the one who was even more silent than you, finally listening to the echo of their own heart. And from there, a new chapter begins where those who left start to realize what they've lost. There was a time when they truly believed that walking away was the right choice, that silence would somehow make things easier. That distance would slowly dissolve the feelings until they faded like a summer dream. But that dream refused to disappear. It stayed, lingering quietly, constantly, in moments that should have felt peaceful. At night when they lie in bed, your face is the last thing that crosses their mind. And in the morning, they wake to a strange emptiness, a sense that something important was left behind. And now they don't even know where to begin searching. They've tried, Aries, tried to bury themselves in work, tried to smile for the world, tried to convince themselves, "I'm fine, I chose this." But the mind doesn't always listen. Some nights they stare at the ceiling, sleepless still, trying to understand why their heart feels so hollow, why the decision that once felt final is now draining them of energy, why your image is still there, vivid, alive, almost touchable, yet as distant as the light of a star that's already died. They thought leaving you would bring relief, but the only thing it brought was disorientation, a hunger they can't feed, a longing without a name pulling them off course in the middle of their own life. Their mind still clings to justifications. We were too different. I couldn't give you what you deserved. There was no future in this. But the heart doesn't follow logic. It still aches whenever someone casually mentions Aries. Still tightens when they see something that reminds them of you, a glance, a laugh, a phrase you used to say. And slowly they begin to realize they lost something, not easily found again. That some souls don't come together because it makes sense, but because it's written, because it's destiny. I'm reminded of a Buddhist teaching. Only after walking through darkness do we truly see the light. Maybe the moment they walked away from you was the first time they finally saw your light. Not the kind that blinds or screams for attention, but the kind that glows quietly, warm, steady. And now that they're no longer in your orbit, they realize just how cold it feels without you. Their silence was never about a lack of love. It was fear. Fear that if they came closer, they'd hurt you again. Fear that they didn't deserve the honesty and safety of the world you once opened to them. And fear that if they returned, you'd no longer be standing there. So this is what I want you, the one listening, to truly understand. When someone leaves, it's not always because they don't care. Sometimes they are in the middle of a war with themselves. A war with unnamed fears, with wounds that were never healed, with the shadow inside them that your love accidentally brought into the light. And I know you might be wondering, if they loved me, why did they hurt me? But sometimes, love isn't enough to keep two people together if one of them hasn't yet learned how to love themselves. What you're facing isn't just someone who left, it's a soul that's waking up. A soul struggling to find their way back, not just to you, but to the light they once felt when they stood beside you. And then, in a moment you never expected, maybe on a quiet morning or a rainy night filled with memories, they finally realize losing you wasn't just a mistake, it was a wake-up call. And the moment their heart begins to understand that this loss was sacred is the moment they start moving again, not from fear, but from something deeper, a belief that maybe it's not too late, that if they return with the truth, with an open heart, and with a proposal sincere enough, you might not walk away. One ordinary day, you're just making tea, wiping down the old table, or wrapping up a long day of work. And then the phone buzzes, a message lights up your screen, with a name your heart thought it had already learned to forget. Or maybe it's a call, unexpected, a voice you once cried for in your sleep, shaky, hesitant, but real. They came back, not in a dream, but in the flesh, with breath, with eyes full of remorse, and a heart quietly finding its way back home. Not the strong, calculated version of them you once knew, but a stripped-down soul standing at the threshold you once opened and had to close, just to protect yourself. And then a proposal, not when you were waiting for it, but when you'd already learned how to live without them. Maybe it's a trembling, teary-eyed, "Will you marry me?" Or maybe it's just 3 quiet words, "I'm so sorry." But this apology, it carries everything they once lacked the courage to say. The mistakes, the fears, the years they spent trapped in their own shadow. They're not speaking through polished words anymore. They're speaking through the tremble in their voice, through a hand reaching out, but not quite daring to touch, through a shallow breath, worried you might turn away. And you, the one who once waited for something like this, now stand in silence. Not because you don't love them anymore, but because you know this moment, this decision, will reshape both your futures. You remember the pain, the sleepless nights, the times you cried alone with no one to hold you, but in that very same moment, you also hear a whisper, not thunder, not miracles, just a still, quiet whisper from God. Forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness is the way you let the light back in. Forgiving doesn't erase the past. It simply unlocks your soul from the chains of what was so you can walk forward, whether alone or with them. Not everyone has the courage to return after messing up, and not everyone has the grace to listen, to understand, to reopen a door that once closed in blood and tears. But the miracle is, real love, even if it's been broken, even if it was once rejected, can bloom again, if it's watered with honesty, humility, and awakening. So, how will you respond? Will you stay silent, turn away, or will you listen with a heart that still has cracks, but also still holds light? No one can answer that for you. Only you know if this love is worth opening your heart one more time. And if you're unsure, sit down, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, is this a return or just another loop? I believe your soul already knows, because you're not the same person you were. You're no longer begging for messages, no longer waiting for someone to choose you. You are the one who walked through pain and stood back up. You are the one who was reborn. You are someone who knows exactly what brings peace to your heart. And it's because you're no longer who you used to be that this moment, as they stand in front of you again, is not a repeat of the past. It's a new test of your self-worth, your trust, and the light you now carry within. They don't have to say it out loud, but I believe you already feel it. They're not just knocking on your heart. They're knocking on their own, asking, "Can you still find it in your heart to let me step into the light?" Do you remember that first call our souls answered together? And if you're still listening, then maybe you already know this story doesn't end with an apology, not even with a proposal, because in that sacred moment when two souls meet again, Aries, you are no longer the one who once fell apart from love. You are the light that helps others see the beauty inside themselves. And from that light, a new journey begins, not with tears, but with freedom. Not everyone who walks through pain comes out carrying light in their heart. But you did, Aries, not by forgetting, but by transforming. Not by pushing feelings down, but by holding them, staring straight into them, and asking yourself, "Who am I?" when no one's left to stay. Something happens to souls who once loved deeply and broke completely. They either shut down forever or awaken as someone entirely new. You chose the second path. You stopped waiting to be seen and became the one who sees yourself. And from that moment on, everything changed. No longer the eyes full of sorrow watching someone walk away. Now, calm eyes looking forward to where love, if it's true, will arrive in the right way. At the right time, you stopped searching for someone to fill the empty space because you realized that space was never meant to be filled. It was meant to be the room where your own inner light expands. I once heard a Buddhist teaching, and it echoes so clearly in this chapter of your life. When you know who you are, you don't need anyone's approval. And you know now, Aries, you know it well. Love is not something you beg for, not a prize for being good enough. Love is the natural harmony between two souls on the same frequency. No chasing, no fighting, no proving. You no longer seek someone to save you. You became the one who reaches out and saves yourself. You don't need anyone to make you feel whole because you already are right here in your very presence. And that's when the miracle begins. When you stop trying to control it all, the good things start to find you. The one who left starts wanting to return. New doors start knocking. Your heart begins to open again, but not out of hope, out of wholeness, out of intention. That is the energy of a queen. No throne, no crown needed. Just a heart clear enough to know who she is, compassionate enough to release resentment, and strong enough to stand alone if she must. You are not arrogant. You've simply stopped trading your peace for half-hearted love. You've stopped sacrificing your self-worth just to be conditionally loved. You're no longer waiting for love. You are the flame that draws healthy love in. And if someone wants to enter your world now, they must know how to honor your light, not because you're hard to reach, but because it cost you everything to learn how to love yourself. You don't need anyone to remind you that you're worthy. You are the living proof of that worthiness. And if you, the one listening right now, once gave up chasing someone just to turn inward and chase your own healing, I hope you know you've done something truly brave. You chose yourself even when it was lonely. You chose healing even when no one had said, "I'm sorry." And if you're ready, share that journey. Not for anyone else to understand, but for you to look back and see every single step you took was something to be proud of. And as you stand here today, grounded, calm, no longer angry, there is something happening beyond what you can see. The universe is adjusting the frequency between you and them, because the moment you stopped demanding anything from love, something strange began. True love started to speak. Not the silence of the past, not the echo of one-sided longing, but a destined conversation between two hearts, finally grown enough to understand that listening is sometimes even more powerful than saying "I love you." There are things we carry in our hearts for months, even years, not because they don't matter, but because we're afraid that saying them out loud might change everything forever, afraid to trade temporary peace for a truth that could shake us to the core. But one day, your soul won't let you stay silent anymore. It starts knocking, not with noise, but with restlessness, with sleepless nights. With that look you give them, knowing deep down if you don't speak now, you might never get the chance. And then something strange happens. The conversation begins, no warning, no plan, maybe on a quiet afternoon when your paths cross again by chance, maybe in the middle of a random message that suddenly opens a door in your heart. No more blame, no more "why did you do that?" or "do you know how much I gave?" Just truth, raw and honest, the truth about the pain that was never spoken, the truth about the times they wanted to come back, but it was already too late, the truth that feelings still linger even if the years have passed. One person speaks, the other listens, then they switch. No defenses, no playing strong, no victim, no hero, just two souls, facing each other, not trying to fix, not trying to win, just listening and being heard. I've always believed this. Every honest conversation is a form of healing because it doesn't need to be right or wrong, it just needs to be real. Buddha once said, "Only truth brings freedom." Not truth as a weapon, but truth as release. The kind of truth that gently unpacks years of silence and lifts the weight both hearts have carried too long. And if you're hearing this now, maybe you're holding something unspoken too, a quiet apology, a lingering ache, a silent wish you've never dared to name. So ask yourself, if tomorrow never comes, would you be brave enough to say it today? Life is too fragile to keep things buried and far too precious to live on untested assumptions. One honest sentence might break something open, but it might also unlock a door you both lost the key to long ago. You can't control how they respond, but you can control the one thing that truly matters, what your heart is carrying, and whether you'll dare to live in truth with it. I know, speaking your truth can feel like stepping off a cliff. You don't know if someone will catch you, you just know that standing at the edge forever will wear your soul down. And the miracle is, once you speak, whether they hold you or walk away, you'll feel lighter because you're no longer carrying it alone. And from that moment of honesty, something new begins. It might be a beginning, it might be an ending, but one thing is certain, it's a transformation like the first rain after a long drought. It doesn't last long, it doesn't ask permission, but it softens everything it touches. And if you're standing at the edge of that conversation right now, let me say this, you are strong enough to speak your truth, and you are bright enough to keep walking no matter how they respond. Because real love, if it's real, won't vanish after one conversation. It will only change shape from something vague to something real, from something that trapped you to something that sets you free. And in that shift, you'll finally see what your heart has been seeking all along, not someone, but a new path where love is no longer something to figure out. It's something you can feel as freedom and wholeness. Not every meeting is random. Not every love is meant to last a lifetime, but there are some connections designed by something far greater than our emotions, by God, by the universe, by two souls that made a pact long before we were born. You didn't meet this person to stay forever. You met them to awaken a part of you you'd forgotten existed, a part that knows how to love unconditionally, a part that knows how to forgive, a part that knows how to walk away without bitterness, and most of all, a part that knows how to choose yourself, even when love still lingers. This love, quiet, painful, uncertain, might just be the greatest test your soul has ever known. Not to prove anything to them, but to prove to yourself that you can love deeply and still protect your light. They came into your life like a mirror, not the kind that reflects your face, but the kind that reflects your soul. They showed you where you were still hurting, what you were still missing, and what you still needed to heal, to return to your truest self. You see them in stillness. They see you in dreams, both of you existing in an invisible space where distance doesn't matter anymore. Only intuition does. Only the shivers that come in the quiet of night. Only the knowing that even if you're apart, your hearts haven't let go. That's the feeling of souls who once made a promise, not in words but in energy, a sacred vow. I will come into your life to awaken you, even if it means we part ways. Have you ever thought maybe they weren't sent to stay but to teach you how to love without attachment, to love without losing yourself, to love and still stand firmly on your own feet? Maybe that is what real maturity in love looks like, because not all love is meant to remain, but every true love leaves behind a light that guides you, a light that heals you, a light that teaches you to believe again in yourself and in the universe. And when you are awake enough, you'll understand separation is not the end. It's movement, it's transformation, it's an adjustment in timing, in space, in soul frequency. The universe doesn't tear lovers apart. It simply shifts the rhythm so you can learn what you need to learn. and they can face the shadow within themselves. And if they return in a different time with a different consciousness, it's not destiny changing its mind. It's destiny finally maturing. And if your heart just paused while hearing this, maybe you're realizing this love was never meaningless. It was the deepest part of your awakening journey. You don't have to understand it all. You don't have to rush toward answers, because some connections aren't meant to be explained with logic. They're meant to be felt in stillness, in presence, in silence, like staring at the moon. You can't touch it, but you know it's there, soft, deep, and real. And in that quiet knowing, you stop hurting like before. All that remains is gratitude, grateful you loved, grateful you hurt, grateful that through that love, you found yourself. And when everything has been said, whether in words or in silence, when the unclear has settled like dust in twilight, a new path begins to appear. No noise, no warning, but clear, like breath. It's the moment you stand before yourself with a deeper awareness of what you're truly ready to walk toward. There are moments in life when you think you're standing in front of a person, but really, you're standing at a crossroads of your soul. One path leads back to where love once bloomed, but where your heart also bled. The other path leads to a place untouched, where freedom and light might live. But so might loneliness, and you stand right in the middle. No more pain pulling you back, no more illusions clouding your eyes, just one quiet question rising from your heart. Was this destiny, or just a lesson? Maybe they'll return with different eyes, with a soul that's learned humility, with a heart no longer full of walls, but one that feels when you smile, stays still when you cry, and reaches for your hand. Not to possess, but to walk beside you. Or maybe they won't come back, not because they stopped loving you, but because that love has served its purpose in your life, like a wave meant to stir the ocean inside you, and then quietly fade into the sand, leaving behind an echo that never truly disappears. And then you realize the answer was never in their hands. It was never in an apology or a promise to return. The answer has always lived inside your heart. How do you feel when you hear their name? Does your heart tighten or finally breathe? Do you still want to walk with them, or have you seen enough to walk alone? Do you feel peace when you picture a future with them? Or is it only when they're no longer in the frame that you finally feel whole? No one else can know that for you. We often think destiny must be something grand, that no matter where we go or what we do, two people meant for each other will always find their way back. But sometimes, destiny is quieter, just a gentle brush of souls, just enough to wake you up, enough to lead you back to yourself. And maybe that was enough. You're no longer who you were, the one afraid of being left behind, the one waiting to be chosen. You've become someone who knows the power of self-love, someone who understands. Your presence is already a gift, and anyone wise enough will treasure that. And if not, you still walk on, softly, peacefully, radiantly, because whether this love was destiny or just a lesson, it gave you something priceless. It brought you home to yourself, a note of gratitude and a wish from the heart. Thank you, you who are still listening, for walking with me through this journey of the heart. Every soul that listens with sincerity will always find its light, whether the love you carry is a forever kind of fate or just a fleeting lesson. I hope you always hold peace in your heart. And I hope you find a love that feels whole, not from anyone else, but from within yourself. Keep shining, Aries, not for them, not for the world, but because you deserve to, and because the world needs that light. Stay radiant, stay true, stay home within your own soul.